I'm holding court this morning with Professor Nyong'o, who's a senator from Kisumu. Also, we do have with us Dr. Richard Bosire, a political scientist from University of Nairobi, Honorable Jeremiah Kioni, who is Ndaragwa Jubilee's candidate, and also Balozi Deputy Speaker Kemi Gitura, who is also a senator from Murang'a. We continue with our discussion this morning, and also I want just to run by you a clip that we played earlier. Of course, this is allegations about IEBC having more ballot papers as alleged by presidential candidate Ekuro Aukot. Take a listen.
Consequence, IEBC has been left with a total of 1.2 million extra ballot papers spread across virtually all polling stations. 6.1% of extra ballot should be a cause of worry to Kenyans. IEBC must now turn attention to the KIM system to ensure that voting is credible. Used, unused, and spoiled ballot papers must be reconciled properly and results tallied transparently and transmitted without any hitches. The CEO of Algurea did confirm in the plenary that 95% of the work had been completed by the time the meeting was taking place. Further, the entire printing work was completely completed by midnight on the same 27th day of July 2017, which was the same day that the due diligence team arrived in Dubai. So we cannot therefore with certainty confirm what may have transpired with the printing of the ballot before my agent arrived in Dubai.
I don't know what exactly they mean by saying that they found ballots have already been printed. Of course, they are already printed because we commenced on Thursday. But for now, I just want to say that the Commission is very transparent. We have printed 19.6 million ballot papers for presidential candidates, plus 1%. And those are the ballots which have been printed.
All right, let's hear from our panelists this morning. Let's begin with you, Honorable Jeremiah Kioni. This extra ballot papers scandal that we're hearing about or being alleged by Ekuro Aukot, what do you make out of it?
I don't know whether to borrow the words of the chairman of IEBC. I don't know what it's all about. I think, you know, every time you walk into a polling station, there are times that you'll ask for an extra ballot paper. And now that, where would it come from if a little bit more had not been printed? So there is need to allow and to let Kenyans know that you cannot print exactly 19.1 million ballot papers, because we'll make a mistake and you still want to vote.
Yeah, but they say there's a provision for the 1%, but yes, of course that has been, it's gone way beyond that.
And I think
that is a worry of...
I think the bottom line, Dibal, here is, we just want to have whatever number of ballot papers are available, as long as we can be able to reconcile in the polling station and reconcile the people who have voted, the ones you are seeing on the machine. Once you can be able to do a proper reconciliation, I don't think we should now allow this kind of things to, because Aukot seems to spend a lot of time micromanaging IEBC as opposed to going out there to do vote hunting. You find him just around IEBC offices all the time, and I think what he's now trying to get us to is not a useful thing. I don't want to agree at all. I don't think so. I don't think so. And again, if he expected the IEBC to wait for him to get to Dubai before the printing, I think he's asking for too much. What we should be insisting on is a reconciliation. Whatever number of ballots are there, let's just make sure that the reconciliation is light, and I believe IEBC is on top of things.
Dr. Bosire.
I don't understand the point my friend here is making. I mean, how do you reconcile with what you don't know? You cannot reconcile if I know 1% is the extra ballot. At the end of it, how has 1% been spent? If it's 6, 7, 8%, how do I do a reconciliation? Because what is not clear here is being transparent in the way this work is being done. And for me, it actually bears or dents the credibility. An electoral body like IEBC should be credible. When these matters are brought out, the response should be one that will convince Kenyans that IEBC is doing the right thing, like what you're saying, this is what we are going to do. But the chairman is talking about it's supposed to be 1%. What Aukot is saying is neither here nor there. I want to say this, Bal, that gradually IEBC seems to perhaps they seem to be eroding their credibility, and I want to trust the electoral body, because the results depend on how they conduct themselves. Actually, our country is greater than even this election. And the contested elections are also always based on how did the process go. And I want to say finally that we have seen even court cases on issues. Some issues have been addressed by the courts, and we have seen the IEBC correcting itself. But at the same time, when you appeal and you win, when you set out, like the IEBC set out the process of verification. This committee was not a window dressing something to go there and be told this has already been done. I thought it was also to strengthen and build this credibility that people will see when they go there to Dubai and see these things have been done above board. And actually that would pacify our people. You know, Kenyans are always jittery about how elections are conducted. And we have seen in the past, the problem is usually the electoral body. Electoral body, we get to the point like we did in 2007, where the head of the electoral body would say he was not sure who won the election. We want that to end so that we trust the body, it does things right. If it has set a mechanism to check the printing, let it do its work, and let us move on with credibility, so that we can have a peaceful election. Right. But if we want to shove everything under the bed and say we must go forward, we don't have time, of course, we'll go to those elections, but with what consequences?
All right, Ballots.
My take is that there's too much suspicion.
Yeah.
That's my take. And people also tend to forget that IEBC is a constitutional independent body. When we went through the Jubilee nominations, for instance, in April of this year, the outcry was that there were very, very few ballot papers in almost every polling station. And so a lot of people were disenfranchised. They didn't vote. Now, I would rather we had more ballot papers, that people went home and they were not exhausted, that the papers were not exhausted, than people going home because there are no ballot papers. And that is what advises or what informs the 1% more extra ballot papers. Now,
but what if
our court is not telling us where he's getting his facts from, where he's talking about so many number of votes. Because I don't see that that IEBC has done anything wrong at all in what they have done. We must have trust. Chebukati is the person dealing with these issues, the chairman, and he's told us that he's printed 1% extra ballot papers as required by law. Now, the people saying he hasn't done, that's what don't know the fact, have no facts. And there is the tendency that what they are saying is intended to intimidate IEBC, and it could cause fear and despondency among the voters. I mean, this voting in Kenya, and everybody knows this, let's not pretend about it, is very emotive. And to start telling people about extra ballot papers, therefore insinuating that there's going to be there's already pre-rigging of elections, is an extremely dangerous thing. So I think people should be very careful with what they say. And in my view, we must stop trying to micromanage IEBC. We must stop intimidating IEBC. We must let IEBC do what it has to do. Lots and lots of cases have been taken against the IEBC in court. Rectifications have been done. IEBC has won in most of these situations because there was no foundation to the claims being made against it. And we must now wait for elections. The reason we have the courts, including the Supreme Court, is that when people are dissatisfied, they can go there. But starting creating your own cases now for the future and forgetting that there are those people who vote, and they may say they're not going to cast their ballot, they're not going to go to the polling station because they fear, because of the fear being created. And 2007, 2008 is not lost in their memories. So I think people should take responsibility. I think we must do what is right. I think we must give IEBC space to manage these elections. We have only 7 days to the elections, and this is not the time for people to continue creating fear and despondency among the electorate. The important thing for me here is that there appears to be too much suspicion, and the people are just throwing around figures without foundation. Chebukati has said it is so much, is 1%. Why can't we take that to be the correct position? And Jeremiah Kioni has made a very important point, if you ask me, although Dr. Bosire has tried to trash it. I think it's a question of how many ballot papers arrived at polling station A. How many were cast? How many were spoiled? How many remain? If people want to do that audit, it can be done. It can be done. But the greatest danger would be go to a polling station in Murang'a and there are not sufficient number of ballot papers, because then that would create chaos. This is not a nomination exercise. This is a general election, and there had better be more, much more than the prescribed number, the registered number of voters.
Right, but if it goes beyond the threshold that is given by law, the 1%.
But has it?
Should
But the
we
question,
not?
but the question,
that is
no. But the question to Bali is, I think this is important. Has it gone beyond the threshold of 1%? What evidence does our court or anybody else batting these figures have? This is important, because it's very easy for me to stand here and say that there are 3% extra ballot papers. It's very easy for me to say that. But what facts and figures do I have to say that? Chebukati, the chairman of IEBC, an independent body, has said it is 1%. And that is what we should start believing, so that we can now work towards a free and fair election.
Dibal,
Right.
as your head professor,
Yes.
These statements that are not measured in any way are going to cost us heavily. Look at what NASA is now trying to do in Nairobi. They are trying to call on their supporters not to leave Nairobi. Stay in Nairobi, vote for us in Nairobi. This is going to affect us as the president. And they have been asked in the past number of times, please make a peace pledge. Talk about a peaceful election. Win the confidence of Kenyans. When Kenyans lose that confidence, and they lose confidence because we keep budding statements here that are really not useful to the process, then we start seeing this kind of people moving. Eventually, you could easily, if you're on balance on votes, you can easily lose because people did not turn up to vote for you, or if they take the buses and move on to another place. And I think we just have to help Kenyans so that we are confident that IEBC, to me, up to where we are, they've done a credible job. And we need to, make sure that the statements they issue are accurate, we should not lead too much suspicion in them.
Right. Let's have from Prof. We'll come to the
say something about it, because I need to say something. First, I like facts. Fact one, when we say that we want 5 agents at a polling station, we don't want 5 police officers at a polling station. NASA does not have police officers. We want 5 agents.
Yes.
And agents are allowed in polling stations. So, Jeremiah, you got it wrong.
I will answer.
We want 5 agents. Let's get that right.
Yes.
Secondly, fact two, when people panic about our policy of adopt a polling station does not mean that you go into a polling station and run the affairs of the polling station. It's very simple. Having agents at a polling station costs something. And we want people who are not politicians, professionals and so on, farmers and so on, to support a polling station, paying 10,000 shillings to support those 5 agents, or offering vehicles to ferry people who cannot walk to a polling station. And those vehicles must be given petrol. So that is our policy of adopt a policy. It's completely been misunderstood, sensationalized by people like Matiang'i. That's why people should get their facts right before they speak. No investigation, no right to speak, said Sir Chairman Mao. Secondly, Governor Kidero has said a very simple thing. Please don't leave Nairobi. You took your chorus here. There's usually a panic at election time that people rush to Machakos bus park to go home because they fear the army is coming with them. We are waiting for you, like I saw the Inspector General on the cover of The Nation. Kidero said, no, please don't go away. Stay here. That is why I'm saying adopt a bus station means go to this bus station and tell these people everything is okay. Stay in Pumwani, vote. Stay in Umoja, vote. Don't go away. So it's the opposite what you are saying, please. Thirdly, let me say the following. The fear is from the government side, not from the people. Take, for example, Mr. Musandu, who is now missing. A senior IB for Philip reported missing. I know the man. His wife is my wife's cousin. He's a very professional man. If you read his CV, He went to the IEBC after working for the ICT manager for National AIDS Control Council, Switchport, and other companies. This is a professional. He has been given those positions because his professionalism.
Is he missing?
He's missing, of course. He's missing. And the state is in charge of our security. Let's not forget that. If somebody like this, and he was due to be testing the ICT system at the IEBC today, you cannot stop citizens from putting 2 to 2, 1 and 1 together and making 2. Because why should Musandu be missing 2 days before he does such a critical job at IEBC? Why is it that with all these CCTV systems in the city, he's last seen on Mombasa Road and nobody knows where he went after that? Why is it that an IEBC official, as senior as this man, should not be guarded now like eggs? Because IEBC is now so important an institution in this country. So I'm saying that, look, and finally, my friend, the Deputy Speaker, when there's suspicion, there are 2 things that are important, facts and institutions. When we were amending the election law, we said that there should be an institution at IEBC called the Technical Working Committee, in which all parties had to send representatives. This Technical Working Committee was to work with the IEBC just to oversee certain critical issues, okay, like procurement, like the ICT system. I remember we requested for this in 2007 and 2013. I was Secretary General of the ODM. And we said, look, to avoid these misunderstandings, let's have a working team where all of us are represented. So when things like this happen, the IEBC consults with them regularly. The IEBC should not call meetings spontaneously when they need people, when things have gone wrong. Now, these are just mere procedures of governance which would stop suspicion messing up with procedures. So I think rather than be partisan, saying the NASA is doing this, IEBC, Jubilee is doing this, let us look at the thing professionally and constitutionally and make sure the IEBC as an institution works at this critical time. And information is important for citizens not to worry and not to be anxious. And if proper information is not being given to people, suspicion, anxiety enters. And then people begin imagining all kinds of things. Like,
but that's the reason I was asking. Information is very important. I agree with Professor Nyong'o, my colleague. I agree with him 100%. Information is very important. And information is what is being given, right? At least by Chebukati. Now, when he says, and for me this is important, when he says this is the threshold of 1%, why? Why does somebody in good faith, why does somebody then, without the facts and figures, go and talk about different thresholds and different figures? Because that is the question. That is the question.
Let me answer you.
Because the ordinary Kenyan watching us, the ordinary Kenyan listening and waiting to vote on the 8th of August wants a peaceful election. That's what they want. They want to be able to go to the polling station, cast their ballot, and go home. And wait for results. That's what they want.
I agree with you.
And they have, and basically they don't even know about the threshold of 1% or more or less.
Yeah.
All they want is that there'll be ballot papers, there'll be security. Look, so let us not talk about things that we do not know, because they are not helpful. In my view.
But the IBC, they've actually...
Let me make one first correct. Okay. Senator, I agree with you. I agree with you totally.
Thank you.
In fact, one of the worst things that can happen is that I go to a polling station and there are no ballot papers.
Yeah, it's worse.
That would be worse. But the following thing must be observed. When you print ballot papers, the IEBC knows exactly the number of registered voters in this country.
True.
When they deliver ballot papers to a polling station, they deliver 1% extra per polling station. It can be 2%, it can be 3%, but that percentage must be known to all parties. And the ballot papers should correspond to that percent. Now, what Mr. Ekut is saying, and I know that young man very well, he's not a man who is full of extrionic hyperboles, a man who picks with facts. Now, when Ekut says that there is about 1 million extra ballot papers, I'm sure he's correct with these figures. What Chebukati should say is the following. The 1% I'm talking about represents so many ballot papers. If Ekut is saying there are 1 million, this 1 million is a little bit above the number of ballot papers I've envisaged, and including 1%. Now let Ekut come to IEBC and demonstrate to us where this 1 million is coming from. That is very simple, because it is quite possible that the people printing the ballot papers overestimated the 1% and printed more than that. And indeed, this has happened before. Before, I remember Sami Kivuitu saying, at the end of the election, because they were trying to give accountability, at the end of the election, we ended up having about 500,000 ballot papers we did not envisage. Go and look at the report, or this Krieger report or something like that. You see, so this controversy about how many extra ballot papers is to be printed has been plaguing the IEBC or the Electoral Commission for a long time. So let's not be emotional about it. Let's just say, what does the figure 1% represent?
Yes.
Let's have our friend to say, this 1 million, can the printers confirm or deny that they printed more than the IEBC asked for? Or did somebody order that extra ballot papers for which the IEBC is not responsible? Those facts must be established. And let's not dismiss Aukut just because we think that he doesn't have his facts correct. He may have his facts correct. Let's give him his day in the court.
In court again.
In court.
But
Not in the actual court. I mean, the IEBC court. I mean, please don't. Yeah,
But
that's,
I think
that's an English expression. That's an English expression. I mean, doesn't mean that it's a judicial court. A day in court,
All right,
a
let's
day
say
in the
for-
kitchen.
Thank you.
The Kenyans will not know the court you're talking about.
But just ask
But
me.
if we come to you,
I-
let's hear from Dr. Busiro. We'll come to you.
Yeah, I wanted to say something. We are not doing this country justice, particularly politicians. It becomes, we heighten the suspicion of Kenyan people when a statement is made and then one side, for example, Jubilee says it's a lie, or NASA says it's true. And I think that is quite polarizing, even before we get our data correct. In fact, if the figures we are talking about, Mheshimiwa Gitura, if the figures are correct, according to our court, that represents 6.3%, not 1%. And again, the argument should be made factually and produce evidence. Now, it's Jebukati who should produce the evidence. Someone has made an allegation against you. It's not like in court you want to say, prove it. No. It dents my credibility. So I say, oh no, these people are saying I have 300 shillings, but I come out and say, you see, these are the receipts. I only spent 250. He should tell us, because he's the one with the facts. Allegations are allegations. He's a politician. The best that IBC could do is to present evidence. We printed this number of ballots. These are the extras, and there is nothing like that. People will believe him. But when politicians in the country speak like this is not true, and Chebukati says the same thing, for me, my heart goes to the credibility of IEBC. You have said it's an independent institution. An independent institution is also subject to public oversight. If someone feels there's something wrong an independent institution has done, you are not denting their image. You are only saying, can you come out clean? If they are not doing a good job, you must say it. You are not micromanaging. In fact, we should be open in our country, in our democracy, that even when the president errs, we talk about it. When the investigative agencies make a mistake, we say something about it. But politicians go out there and say, for example, the military, when NASA was talking about the military, they twist it and say, our military is professional. How can you be a commander-in-chief of the armed forces? I feel as a professional, we should respect, Kenyans should respect institutions, but at the same time, they should hold the institutions accountable. When they ask questions, institutions should come out with the figures, with data, convince people that these institutions are worth the independence they claim to have.
All right. Let's hear from
information.
Kioni, we'll come to you, Professor.
Just information.
Yes.
We'll come to you, Professor.
Yes, the information will come after. Professor, I have no problem. In my mind, I'm not confusing the 5 agents and the 5 police officers.
Yeah.
But if you insist that you want 5 agents per polling station, and I do the same, and every other person does the same, are we going to be able to manage those number of agents in any polling station?
Okay.
That is one of the things that we must agree. And if then the IEBC is saying that we do not want anything beyond 1 person, 1 agent per candidate, and you bring in 5 more, the police officers will be forced to Allow me to do, and I think it's important that we pay attention to that, because if the police officers then come to the station and say everybody out, and you're insisting that you need your 5, then chaos will erupt, and this is a very it's a movement that we need to be very, very careful. The other thing that I think is important, you've said something very important, that you're saying, Kidero is saying all is okay, which is good. And I wish we could all be saying this.
I said it in Kisumu, by the way.
If we say all is okay and Kenyans now have the confidence that everything is okay, we are not heading for chaos, and if this message was coming from us from the beginning, we will not be having this kind of exodus that we are seeing. It's not good for anybody. I don't want to see voters leaving Nairobi. We want people to vote, and you cannot tell me there's a number of people who are now at Machakos bus station and are not voters in Nairobi. It is going to affect the outcome of voters in Nairobi. And let me also say the other I think we all should agree that this issue of Msando, I watched him on AM another day, I think last week, and I thought he was really useful to the nation. Now to see him missing, all of us must take the same position that we want him. We want to find out where it is. We should not take partisan position and start throwing suspicions all over, because it doesn't help us at all. And I can tell you that what I am seeing in the social media is that the person who they are saying wants to be appointed is called Alex Kioni. And they are saying Alex Kioni is my son. I want to tell everybody, I don't have a son called Alex Kioni, and my sons have never worked in IBM. But I think we need to, we need to ask the forces or the security agents to find out what is happening. We need him. He was very useful, and he's one of the persons who was making us have confidence in the functioning and the management of IEBC. But I think it is important that the technical committee that the Senate and the National Assembly had agreed upon, I don't know whether it was to oversee or to buy into what was happening so that suspicion is reduced, because we don't want a committee overseeing a constitutional body that is independent, but to buy in so that our confidence continues, we continue building on confidence. That is a useful thing.
Professor, yes. Read the Nation, page 4.
Page 4?
Page 4.
Yeah.
Where Output expresses concern over 1.2 million extra ballot papers.
Let me just walk over
Just
there.
go to page 4. Because I think this is why I insist on facts. Go to page 4.
Yeah, heading there, page 4. Yes.
Yeah, okay, you're page 4.
Yes, page 4.
No, yeah, at the bottom.
At the bottom.
Output, okay, there.
Excessive concerns of 1.2.
Look at the last paragraph on the first column, which begins on Saturday. And I'll read it to you.
All right.
Okay. On Saturday, another commissioner, Rosemary Akombe, said there are 1.2 million ballot papers that needed, which surpasses the 1% threshold. But this had been explained to the stakeholders. Mm-hmm. What we want is, the commissioners themselves have accepted what our court has said. The commissioners are saying that they explained this to the stakeholders. We are the stakeholders, we political parties. Our court is a stakeholder because it's a presidential candidate. We need to know what that explanation is.
You know the problem I have here?
Yeah.
And Senator Anyan, have the greatest respect for you.
Yeah.
The issue here is that this is what you're reading in the papers.
Yeah.
And you know that in Senate, at least, we don't rely on newspaper reports.
But on Twitter...
You know you cannot. Let me finish.
The IBC official...
Let me finish.
Twitter, yes.
No, that's what they are saying. But Chebukati has said it is 1%. Chebukati has said it's 1%.
In the media too.
Yeah, in the media too.
Trust the media.
No. On live, he said it's 1.1%. And Dr. Bosire, what we were taught in law, when we were reading law, we were taught that he who alleges must prove. So you cannot allege something against me.
Right.
And let me finish and expect me to keep and expect me. Otherwise, it's going to go on ad infinitum. That's the point I'm making. The point I'm making is that the issue about extra ballot papers is very important. And maybe there's cause for concern. I agree with you. But the law allows for 1%. And I saw one person has already sent a tweet there saying that Kenyans have the capacity to calculate 1%. That's what I've just seen on one of the tweets there. I'm sure we are going to go through.
You are not understanding what I'm talking about.
No,
What
no,
I'm talking about. No,
Professor,
please listen.
let me finish. Why don't you allow me to finish?
Finish, then let me explain
Let
what
me
I'm
finish, then
talking
you
Professor, just give him time to finish and come to you.
The point I'm making is that when I listen to all of us here, we are speculating because we have no facts. Let's admit that we are speculating. And maybe the issue of whether it's 1% or 2% or 6% is important. Yeah? But if our court, whom I haven't had the privilege of meeting, says it is 6%, it is up to him to prove that it is 6%. It is not for Chebukati to go beyond the point of saying, I'm telling you, is 1% is allowed by law, and that amounts to 1.2 million extra ballot papers. That is the only position I'm trying to make, and that's an important position.
And the position I'm trying to make, Deputy Speaker, is that there's a statement in the papers. The same statement that has reported our court as saying that 1.2 million extra ballot papers. It's the same newspaper that has reported it. And that is not a fabrication on the part of anybody. It's not a fabrication on my part, nor on yours. It is reported here in the papers. Our court saying that 1.2 million extra ballot papers. A commissioner on Saturday, another commissioner, Rosemary Akombe, said there are 1.2 million ballot papers that needed, which surpasses the 1% threshold. Now, they seem to concur on the figure. Chebukati comes later and just says, no, what they usually print is 1%. All I ask from Chebukati, that 1% of yours translates to how many ballot papers? That we want to know those facts, okay? Now, I also said that we must be agnostic and say, let's not say who is telling the truth. There's a committee called the Textual Committee that was set up to verify these things. And we are stakeholders. So that committee, together with Chebukati, our court, and this commissioner, should now come out and give us the final facts.
But
okay, so let us not defend.
Our court has an answer to all his.
No, not our court.
Yes.
The man,
in the same place.
hold on. The man who is responsible for IEBC, Chebukati, he should call ERCOT to IEBC. His own commissioner has also said the 1.2 extra. His own commissioner.
Yeah, but
okay. So don't defend Chebukati.
I am not.
And underestimate the commissioner.
Why? I'm not defending Chebukati.
Yeah.
But so what's your problem? What's your problem? You seem to be saying that this thing should not be investigated further.
That is from the same newspaper.
Why are you so defensive?
I'm not defending anybody.
Let us have ERCOT come. Chebukati there, and the technical committee sit down and give Kenyans the final figure.
In fact, we're trying to call also our court. I think he's Mteja. It will have been good also to hear from him.
Let me point out something in the papers also.
And then finally, to my friend Jeremiah, those 5 agents are not going to enter the polling stations, by the way.
They are going to be outside the 400 meters?
No, okay, they are our agents.
Yes. Outside the 400 meters?
They are our agents. Where
Without doubt.
No, but they're not going to be the polling station. Where they're going to be, it's none of your business. They are our agents.
But they should not be within anywhere
they
they
will
infringe the law.
I'm telling you they are not, because we ourselves at negotiation with the IBC, we want to understand how many agents are we allowed in a polling station. First, the IBC saying, according to law, 1 agent per political party.
Yes.
We say, no, if 1 agent per political party, then independents will be there more than us, because the independents will have 1 agent each, and they could be 10. So you are 1 for a political party which has so many candidates, each independent has an agent. So we say, look, we have these 5 agents ready, okay, to represent our candidates in the event. You know, the law is also very ambiguous. They say if the party chooses not to choose an agent, that candidates can have an agent. We don't want our agents to be too many, because we have so many candidates. We don't know all our candidate agents there. We're limiting it to 5, okay? So that once the IEBC decides how to implement the law, we have trained our 5 agents per polling station. So please, before people begin yapping, come and talk to us. Yeah,
but when you communicate, Prof, I think then you need to work on your communication department, because they seem to be setting conflicting things that are completely contrary to what you are trying to say. Because what you are saying... What you are saying...
Don't jump, just sit when you speak.
No. Then also be seated, don't be standing.
Professor, you're being unfair.
Yeah. But I wanted to point out something more serious, more useful to Professor.
Yeah.
The same article that you have made us look at, if you go, you see where it is written, partisan engagement.
Where?
Yeah.
Partisan engagement.
Column 2.
Yeah, column
Yes.
2.
That is an engagement.
Yeah, second last paragraph.
Yeah.
He says used and spoiled ballot papers must be reconciled properly and results tallied transparently and transmitted without any hitches. That's the
usual thing.
and that is
how it's
what
supposed to be.
answers all that he is worried about. For as long as we can be able to account for used and spoiled ballot papers, then we have done the reconciliation.
I agree, but the point is, we must know ahead of
So
time.
our court is trying, I think, well, he got some airtime, but ideally is that he has the answer to what we need to
Okay,
do.
so let
that
us have
we
the
don't
meeting.
we don't get
Let's have the meeting of all of them together, sit down and give us a final answer. That's all I'm saying.
But these are the 5 agents that you're talking about. If that is what you've been saying all along, I must again tell you that your communication department is doing a very bad job.
No, it's just
Because you've just said what we have been saying here with the Deputy Speaker, that it is important that we have our own agents in the polling station.
Yeah.
Each candidate should have at least one agent in the polling station.
and that's what we're saying. You see, we saw that law. Said, for example, I am running for a governor. I have 4 independent candidates running against me. Each one of them is going to have an agent.
Yes.
I am only tied to one agent, according to the law,
Yes.
which represents our party. That agent is going to represent the president, the governor, the senator, the MPs, the MCS. And we said this is unfair.
Why?
Because the scrutinizing what is happening there is a very requires a lot of
I think the
attention.
point that-
No, but let me
the
just
point I think-
let me continue, my friend.
Okay,
Please,
let me finish.
don't jump when I talk.
I don't know what is
No,
jumping.
don't jump. Yeah, just I mean, you get so scared when I speak. I don't know why. You get so scared when I
You
speak.
say something.
When I say something, they jump.
Finish, I'll talk after you.
Yeah. So let me say this.
This is what Bonner
So
Speaker really
when
goes through. Yeah?
that same law, Deputy Speaker, saying if a party chooses not to have their agents, candidates are allowed to have their agents. We sat down and said, look, Bana, this also doesn't make sense. If you have MCAs, all of them each choosing an agent, you'll have so many, 35 agents in the polling station. If you have MP, so they will be told, so let's limit the number to 5. Let's train 5 agents. The moment the IEBC makes a rational decision, you cannot stop independent from having their agents. That is in law.
That's right.
Okay? So let independent enjoy their day in court by having their agents. We, however, are not going to go to the extreme of having all, like the law says that if you say we are not choosing an agent as a party, everybody else can choose the agent. That's going to be expensive. They are having too many people there. Let's train 5 agents per polling station, and we shall use these 5 agents to represent our party.
Without doubt, the cost of hiring agents for the governors, the senators, and those who are at the county level is heavy.
It's heavy.
But I think we must be careful not to confuse that with the need. I mean, as a person running for member of parliament for Daragwa constituency, the agent that will be picked to oversee the voting process on behalf of the senator, the women rep, and the president may not be a person whom we agree with. It could easily be a person who will skew things to another candidate who is running on an independent. And it's actually for that reason that I think it is important that parties, while parties can have their agents, it is important for other positions. Maybe those at the county level can agree on agents, and I doubt whether that will be still possible. But the most important thing at the end of it all is that person who is your eye inside the polling station. Because all we've been doing for the last 2 years will go to waste. If I cannot have a person I trust and whom I have been worked with through the process. So I think it is important that we engage on this issue a little bit more and don't explain it more, that the 5 agents that you're talking about are not agents who are coming to attack the polling station, because that is what
But why attack? Why do you get that idea from?
It is the way you have been communicating
No.
out there is like these are individuals that need to be evicted from the polling station.
No.
Because it's over and above.
It's not over and above.
If it's not over and above, then I think we are
simply
talking
agents.
Let's
say
say
Dr. Busire. Dr. Busire.
I don't understand where this thing came from.
you are the ones jumping, not
No, but where did the word attack come from?
You know,
Where?
I'm disadvantaged. I'm sitting between politicians.
And politicians are good people. There is this
They will grab
misconception
the
all over.
opportunity.
Buffer now.
They will grab
Bring
the
some
opportunity
clarity.
time. Now, I just wanted to say this. I think what we are losing in this country is dialogue between political leaders. What I see from here, they don't have dialogue among themselves to be able to agree on how certain things should be done. We have depended, or they have depended so much on what they do in the public, in the rallies. Even if someone raises an issue that is as important as guarding the ballot, I think every politician wants to guard their ballots, as Honorable Kioni is saying. He wants someone he trusts to guard the ballots. But then it reaches a point where people are fighting over an issue that they should not be, something that they should be agreed on. How do we go forward on this without contravening the law? We have seen the primaries. Primaries have been rigged because of the same reasons. And you went through, Bana Kitura, you went through this. We have seen this even in Nyanza and other places, that elections were not free and fair. They stuffing of ballots, ballot boxes, the double voting, and all these crimes that are committed. So that someone wins, that I must win, regardless of the law, regardless of what other people feel, regardless of what the electorate think about my candidacy or my candidature. So what I'm trying to say is that there must be, we should steer our country in the right direction by having dialogue among political leaders. I don't know where the spirit of what did you call the interparliamentary something in the 1990s?
IEBC.
Yeah,
1997.
it brought about some sanity, and we went on to the runway towards a better democracy, and that is what has brought us here. I don't know why politicians cannot speak to them among themselves. Instead, we are shouting at each other. Even the presidential candidates are saying someone raises an important issue. The next thing is the other one is bashing this guy without saying this is an important issue, it will be for the good of our country, and let us look at it squarely.
All right. Is it also a lack of, proper information from IBC? Because all we see also that we can pick from the media is sort of a rejoinder. When now we have a court now giving these figures, also we have Chebukati saying now the 1% it is. But we don't have a breakdown. Maybe they should come to the fore and give us a breakdown on what, because now officially they announced in the Twitter handle that the printed ballot papers is 20,818,000, right? Away from what we have the exact figure of 19,611,423 as registered voters, of course. And
which actually confirms the 1.2. I've done the math.
Yeah, which confirms 1.2.
Yes.
Right? And this is what now is really sparking all this debate, because
What
we
is
say there's no
1%
fact.
of 119
Yeah.
million?
It's much less. This is 6%. 1.2 is 6%.
1% of 19 million.
You can just work it backwards. I think it should be less, far much less. I'll give it to you. I'll work it out.
It cannot be. I think even what we are doing. But what I wanted to say is that where did our court go first? He went to the media. So Chebukati
should go also to the media.
He should, which is okay. But if we really wanted to get the position proper and not create anxiety in the public, you should have asked IEBC, why are these numbers not turning up? Some of these issues might have been, it's easier to handle them behind there than come out here and create unnecessary anxiety. And I don't think this 1.2 thing is outside the 1% of.
It's about 200,000.
We'll give you
to be about 200,000. About 200,000. Thereabout.
I don't know.
200,000 ballots.
But I think.
So the question is, the miscommunication.
It's miscommunication.
Yeah?
There is the suspicion levels in this country is hilarious, and he keeps talking about politicians. The professionals have also bought into it. University lecturers are also in it. When they come on air, they don't help us with facts. They also just feed into the suspicion. And they are actually, if politicians are horrible, you are no better. What I have been seeing when I am watching this AM Live and professors from the university,
you see,
they
the
just
analysis
feed to the narrative.
There are different types, Zidibal will tell you. It's science. Political science is science, for example. Analysis is scientific. You need the evidence. But what you say, someone can also analyze the narrative, what you have said, and give some conclusion to it. Not that university professors are feeding in the politicians' talk, but of course that's the data. What the politician says, the data for analysis by political analysts.
And when you say we are screaming to one another,
of course.
And then Professor here is saying we are jumping, I think these are statements that...
It's actually true. I wish we could be sober and discuss these issues.
And because we are not
as
always,
a people.
and because we are not always sober, Professor Dr. Bosire, that is why we have to have an arbiter called IEBC. Because we are not always sober, because we talk, we scream at each other, and we need to have somebody who is going to make a decision who won and who lost. Otherwise, it's just going to be a shouting match. And that's why we have elections, so that decisions can be made. And I think maybe it is time we started to create more trust. But trust will start to come, and I think it's you who said this, trust will come at the end when we start having free, fair, and credible elections. Then people will now look forward to the next elections, because the last ones were free, fair, and transparent. I think this is how we are going to create a background or a foundation that is acceptable to all of us in the future. To build democracy. And this must start right from the beginning with the party nominations.
Thank you.
Going to the general elections, because I keep saying this, and I think it's important that I repeat it, that democracy is not a finished product. It's work in progress. Always. We try to improve it. We make mistakes. We must learn from our mistakes and then move on. Suspicion isn't bad, because then it creates a stronger, independent body. But I think it's important that we start also trying to respect the independent bodies and the institutions in this country, because when they become strong, when the IEBC is a strong institution, the judiciary is a strong institution, the legislature and everything else, then we have a stronger nation going forward. That is my view.
Thank you.
I agree with that, Deputy Speaker. First of all, look, arguments must be combative. Otherwise, they are not arguments. The fact that we have combative arguments doesn't mean we don't have confidence in each other. I remember when I was at university, we used to have seminars with my friend Mike Chege and the later Paul Onjonyo Mukarunganga. And the students would see us on the platform battling ideas. And after that, we go to Norfolk and have a drink, and they wondered, what kind of creatures are these? But the whole point is that when you are trying to establish a way out or get issues properly analyzed, you have to argue. And that arguing can be stormy. That doesn't mean that we can't sit down and talk otherwise. And the Deputy Speaker knows that in the Senate, some very stormy arguments. But out of those stormy arguments come resolutions which are useful to both sides. And secondly, I agree with the Deputy Speaker. Democracy, from time immemorial, has always been a work in progress. There's no perfect democracy on the face of the earth, but there are certain principles of democracy that must prevail if you call yourself democratic. And those principles, people battle over them. People are killed over them. Otherwise, we would not have overthrown the Moi era, and people would not have lost their lives and been jailed and detained and been exiled in search of democracy. Now we have a step forward in the new constitution, and we must guard the measure against the constitution. And no other institution, including the IEBC, is going to stop us from advancing democracy further. I think that's the point that I take myself. Thank you.
Thank you. And of course, right now I want to give you all this opportunity as well, Honorable Jeremiah Kioni, Professor Nyong'o, and Kembi, very briefly, because now you're heading now to, down to the wire. It's only next week. Maybe sort of a stamp speech that we want to hear from you, very briefly, right, to the electorate. I want to thank you also that you've been amazingly faithful to appear here on the show, even despite the fact that you're heavily engaged on the ground to make sure that you're campaigning, but you've also slotted some time to come and be on the program. I want to just give you an opportunity very briefly to speak to your electorates. Let's begin with you, Honorable Jeremiah Kioni, briefly.
One is, let me wish my colleagues who are also on the list, Professor and Deputy Speaker. The Professor is gunning for the governor's seat in Kisumu, and my neighbor, Mheshimiwa Kebi, is gunning for the senator's seat in Murang'a, and I wish them well. It is to seek for a peaceful election. I ask for the support of the people in Dalagwa. I would want to represent them in Parliament again. I did it 5 years ago. And I would want to do it again, and would want to change the lives of people, but they should do it in a peaceful manner. We want them to turn out in numbers. They must do away with unnecessary propaganda. And at the end of the elections, we'll still be neighbors. We will be working with one another. I want to ask them that even as we go through this process, we must do it as people who love one another. But I ask for their vote.
Thank you.
Yes.
Balozi.
Well, thank you very much, Debal. For the last so many weeks that I've had the privilege of being a panelist in this show, I've really enjoyed it. And I want to thank you for having invited me to come here. It's very revealing. It's very educative in my view. And I felt the challenge of being a member of this panel. And I want to thank you very much. I hope after the elections, after all of us are ensconced in our various places, personally in the Senate, that this program is going to go on and that you have time to invite me to come and espouse on the things that we've been discussing. We are going to the elections in less than a week now, 8 days, actually 7 days, because today is almost finished. And we're looking forward to the elections. It's been a long journey, and we want to see it come to an end now. To the people of Murang'a that have been representing in the Senate, my request, like I've always made the request to them, is that I've tried to do my best as their senator and also as the Deputy Speaker of the Senate. And I'll feel privileged if they allow me another 5 years to continue building a firm foundation for devolution, not just for our county, but for this nation, so that the people who come after us will see that the foundations were built strong enough not to be shaken in the future. Because what we need are strong foundations going forward, strong institutions, and when we are not there, and when other people take over the positions that we've been privileged to hold, then they'll have something to build on, not to start building anew. So the people of Murang'a, my request to you is that should you find it fit to re-elect me, I promise and undertake to be faithful like I have been in serving you, and I've tremendously enjoyed serving you for the last 4.5 years. Look forward to serving you in the next 5 years. Thank you very much.
Professor Nyong'o.
Like my colleagues, I really like to thank you, Aina, for having organized us in this panel, and my colleagues, 2 colleagues. I would like to appeal to the people of Murang'a. Please elect my friend Kembe Gatura to go back to the Senate.
Thank you very much, Professor.
And my friend Kioni, please let those people get you back to the National Senate. Ndaragwa, yes. I think these are gentlemen who have been extremely able legislators, and I would be happy to see them back to the Parliament. As for myself, I'd like to appeal to the people of Kisumu. You've already shown a lot of confidence in me, and that confidence should be carried out on the 8th of August, so that we lay strong foundation with proper planning for devolution and service to the people in the great county of Kisumu. But finally, let me just appeal to the nation and to the government. Senior IEBC official reported missing. I just want to read this paragraph. It has been reported by Mrs. Eva Elsa Umabuyu, care of Nyayo Estate, and wife to Mr. Christopher Chege Busando, who is manager ICT system and data center support at IEBC, that Mr. Musando has been missing since Friday, 20th of July 2017. This is a mother and a wife. Just take it at that level. There are children involved, young and old, who need their father. Whatever Mr. Musandu was doing the IEBC, to them he was a father. And I know that Elsa and my wife are cousins, first cousins. And they've been going through a lot of pain over this issue. So from a purely humanitarian, human point of view, whatever differences there are, please bring back Mr. Musandu alive.
Thank you, Prof. Finally, Dr. Busire, very briefly.
Thank you. I'll say something. I just want to say that all institutions, I want to ask all institutions to work harmoniously. They should work in harmony to deliver a free and fair elections. Whether we are talking about the security, we're talking about IEBC, we're talking about all institutions concerned with delivery of this election on the 8th of August. Because if they did, then the Kenyan confidence will be there and we'll have no problems.
Thank you very much, our panelists this morning, and I wish you well, even as you're going down to the wire. Next week, we'll be doggedly following what will be happening in the counties, of course, giving a blow-by-blow account and reporting here from AM Live, and of course, NTV in general. Thank you very much for your valued company this morning, and of course, have a lovely day.